I don't want to feel numb to my anxiety because I also feel that the reason I am the way I am and I am who I am and I want to be the best that I can and I want to perform at a certain level is because of my anxiety and because it does keep me sharp and that is who I am. So it really has been responsible for the path that I'm on in life. So I don't want to wipe that out, but I just want it to be manageable and not feel crippled by it all the time. What's up, everyone? How's it going? Um, I'm recording this blog post on a Monday, which is different for me. Typically, I'm spending some time on Tuesdays doing Modern Craftsman stuff, but we had some weather here this morning, and I have the floor sub on the job wrapping things up this week, so not too much that we can do inside. So I figured, well, I'll explain why I'm doing it today, but essentially, I had a lot on my mind. Experiencing some recent anxiety, which is not anything that's very abnormal for me, but just a little bit worse than normal. So I decided to rather than go get into work and get my belt on and essentially distract myself of what I was feeling. I decided to really take care of what was top of mind for me and get some things in order and under control so that maybe I have a little bit less of that instant gratification caused or created through distraction. The instant gratification of getting something done or heading to the job and cleaning things up, organizing things, which is it really is gratifying, but a lot of times it's not addressing the issues at hand. So I'm always trying to balance um, paperwork and jobs and progress, and a lot of times most of my time and effort goes towards being on the project, and a lot of times that ends up creating anxiety for me on the back end of things. It's really hard to be able to get done what I need to get done, especially when I have a job that the scope has expanded two times of what twofold of what we initially thought. So um, I'm gonna do this a little bit differently today. Uh, I'm just gonna read what I wrote on this blog post, and as always, if you guys head to moderncraftsman.co, you can check out my actual blog posts of this, and a lot of times those blog posts will supplement, or the podcast will supplement the blog posts. But you can still, regardless, you can hop on it and read the written blog post that I somewhat base my conversation with you guys here on. But I'm just going to read this blog post today. I my writing was a little bit different today. I pretty much sat down, put on my headphones, and zoned out and just wrote somewhat what was just coming across, making its way through my head. And didn't just I basically just wrote, and where it wound up, and I went back and I revised it quickly like I normally do, but I really just wanted to get the words and what I was feeling out there, and rather than construct this post and have a beginning, a middle, and an end, I just essentially regurgitated what was inside of my head onto paper. Um, and that's what you guys are getting this week. So I'm going to read this blog 34, my recent bout of anxiety. So here we go. In the past few years, I've implemented many things into my lifestyle to help assuage my general anxiety with regard to work and my lifestyle. I've tried to eat healthier, exercise, ride my dirt bike, spend time with my family, and work less. For the most part, this has really helped. I have not had any truly crippling anxiety to speak of for maybe 3 years or better. I do take daily medication to quell the obsessive thoughts and behaviors which often accompany my anxiety. But this is not a fix all. Unfortunately, this last week, I began to spiral a little bit. I'm feeling less motivated to exercise, get out of bed, and work. I understand this is simply a lull and nothing has gotten out of control, but I really need to focus on maintaining my routines and not allowing myself to wallow or stew in this shit. Easier said than done. I believe that my recent bout with an intensified level of anxiety was spurred by my latest vacation, the issues on my recent project, the kids starting school, and fairly routine life changes that seem to be more impactful due to my emotional and mental state. I felt uneasy, stressed, tired, irritable, nervous, worrisome. Most of these feelings are unjust or triggered by things outside of my control, but that's neither here nor there when I begin to feel this way. It's extremely convenient to tell others or yourself, and I definitely do this a lot, that you simply must worry about what is within your control. But to someone who's experienced a severe level of anxiety, that is the silliest and most utterly insane sounding advice that can be offered. In the past, I foolishly and unsuccessfully attempted to combat these feelings by working more, partying, or burying myself in distractions. While this was a temporary reprieve, the long term benefits were nil. These days, I spend more time focusing and delving into why I'm feeling this way and what sort of healthy actions I can take to ease my fears and heighten stress. I understand these feelings will pass, and that by suppressing them, I'm simply perpetuating the situation. So last night, I had some trouble falling asleep. Typically, this is the case on Sunday evenings as the week looms overhead. When I finally fell asleep, I found myself restless and waking up throughout the night in full sweats. Um, I can tell I can tell that this is a different it's not sometimes you get sick, you get a fever, you get sweats. This is something I've experienced a lot, so I know that this is related to my anxiety. Um, it's not truly a physical reaction to what's going on as much as it is an emotional and mental reaction. Obviously, there is a physical nature to this, but again, this isn't a sickness a physical sickness or ailment that I'm feeling as much as stress and anxiety is creating this physical condition. Typically, this only lasts a few nights if I'm able to manage my stress, but I've experienced stints in my life where this has happened for weeks or months on end. The following day, I generally feel sick to my stomach and have a lack of appetite. That is the case today. So rather than rush to work this morning and ignore what I was feeling, I chose to spend the day relieving my anxiety by taking care of emails, phone calls, paperwork, and finances. Fun, huh? These are the things that are top of mind for me, and I'm fully aware that if these tasks are pushed to the back burner, I will temporarily feel better while I'm physically working on the job, but the evening and night will be a reoccurring nightmare. I also intend on getting outside, getting some fresh air, and pounding the pavement for a few miles. Tomorrow will be a new day with its own unique set of challenges, so I must prepare myself the best that I can to face those tasks. I understand that I will not come out of this bout of anxiety today, tomorrow, or realistically for a week or two at best. So I need to focus on getting through each day. Incremental changes and positive progress will yield long term results. There are no shortcuts, and it took me a long time to realize this. Anything that yields immediate and seemingly impactful results has generally, excuse me, I think that was my favorite line of all this, and I just completely botched it. Anything that yields immediately, uh, and again, anything that yields immediate and seemingly impactful results generally has negative long term effects. Um, so, to elaborate that a little bit, whether you are using exercise as a distraction, um, alcohol as a distraction, gambling as a distraction, sex as a distraction, food as a distraction, whatever it may be, uh, even me getting up and going to work and just feeling productive by getting something done on the job, it feels good, but I am not mentally even addressing the problem at hand. So for me, it gets me out of that fog temporarily, but at the end of the day, I'm not working towards the solution as much as masking the solution. So long term, I'm not really helping. and the problem just somewhat festers and continues to grow, or at the very least remain. So generally these quick and immediate fixes, they're like a diet, right? There's going to be a quick impact up front. Long term, it more than likely will not stick and will not last. I don't really have a definitive or measurable goal for this blog post other than to spew out what is on my mind and what I am feeling. I'd love to hear from any of you listeners as to what helps you crawl your way out of these situations. I've certainly made progress over the years, but by no means have a perfect solution. Shit, for 23 years, I did not even realize I had an issue or these feelings were abnormal. At the end of the day, I now realize that anxiety is a real thing and that more people experience this than you may know. If someone is irritable, unmotivated, detached, or preoccupied, or acting out, possibly they're experiencing some internal anxiety that you're unaware of. So rather than respond with similar sentiments or energy, try to be compassionate and understanding. You may not be able to help, but you most certainly can avoid contributing to the uneasiness and unsettled emotional state of the individual. Um, so again, this is pretty much I put my headphones on. I was actually listening to a Phillies game and wrote this, which a lot of times usually just winds up with nonsense that I then have to go back and spend countless hours trying to edit to make sense of anything. But I really went through and corrected some grammatical errors and let this be what it was. I didn't really change it. There's not a huge direction. It's all over the place. But I just wanted to get it down on paper. Um, this is by no means any like a bad experience of anxiety for me. It's still fairly low level, but I know that it's worse than the day to day feelings of anxiety that I have that I can manage and I can cope with long term. That are just my personality type. This is a little bit more. So I want to I wanted to get this blog post out there, this podcast recorded, so that everyone can just hear what's going on if it's something that you can relate to, or if there's somebody in your life that possibly experiences this. I was watching maybe a movie or it was something with my kids and they were explaining what anxiety was and their definition of it was amazing, and I don't recall where I heard it or what they said, and I quickly tried to look it up, but then that was just creating more anxiety for me because I couldn't find it, so I gave it up. But essentially, it was that you have these feelings and this fear that is unwarranted, and it's not really in response to a particular situation, right? If you have a sports competition and you're feeling anxiety about that, that's that's just right. That's normal. You should have some anxiety and some nerves, and it's for a specific set of circumstances or a specific situation. Anxiety more so, at least how I experience it, would be those nerves, um, that feeling in your stomach, the lack of sleep, the tossing and turning, the stress, the irritability, um, a little bit of detachment and that your mind is somewhere else, but really not because of anything. So again, if you have a test in spec when you were in school, or you have a public speaking event, or a review at work, or a job interview, that feeling that you have leading up to those situations, for me, when I'm feeling very anxious, I have, but not for there's no single circumstance or situation that I could say this is creating that. It's just a feeling that I have about life. Um, it's not that I have an inspection. It's not that I have an interview with a new customer. It's not that I have issues on a job that I haven't figured out, or I'm having a difficult customer. It's as crazy as it sounds. It's everything and nothing at the same time. Everything in my life is creating anxiety, but at the same time, it's not any single thing, and it's really nothing because when I break apart each individual um, issue that I'm experiencing or condition within my life that I feel as though is adding to and perpetuating these feelings that I'm having. I can't say that that's why. Um, Sometimes, like, I always feel this way heading out of the year end into the new year, right, where I have a bunch of time off from work. That's how I started this podcast a year ago. Well, not a year ago, but at the beginning of the year was essentially I was having these feelings where I just can't really put my finger on why I feel the way I do, but I know that I feel the way I do. So that was somewhat of the impetus for getting down and putting these thoughts on paper. Um, so I can't really say why I feel the way I do. I've had times in my life that I was unaware of why I felt this way. And I would say that as a person, I probably feel this way more than other people as far as nerves and anxiety go, even with respect to specific circumstances, right? If I had a job interview, if I had a wrestling match, if I have an inspection, if I have a new project starting, I am an overly anxious person, so I probably experience it with respect to specific circumstances, and events in my life, but I also do experience this more often than not with respect to nothing. It could be my kid's birthday coming up that, like, they're getting older and I don't know how to deal with that. And them going back to school and summer ending and vacation, having time off and trying to get away, where it's just all these things are floating in my head, and all together they're creating this feeling of angst, but independently none of them are really contributing to any of this. So that may not make sense to anyone who has not experienced this in life. I know that my wife typically doesn't have anxiety. She'll get stressed out some, but she's just not an anxious person. um, my older daughter is not an anxious person. My younger daughter is an anxious person. So it's very recognizable for me when I see it in my daughter, and it's very easy to give her advice or to speak to as to what she needs to do because I can see it clear as day in her. But when you're experiencing that yourself, um, even though you know exactly what's going on and you understand that there's really nothing causing this other than maybe some sort of chemical imbalance or just a rut or something may have changed in your diet or something may be changing with the weather or how much sunlight you're getting or it could be a combination of everything. It's really hard to find a way to crawl out of this, and sometimes it's just time. Sometimes it may be nothing that you do at all and all of a sudden you're just good. But for me, the the biggest thing for me is to not distract myself from what I'm feeling. And although it's not fun to sit there and put the waders on and just slop through your shit, a lot of times that's the best way to do it for me because it's so easy, and it had been so easy for me prior to taking this approach to just bury myself in work, go out and party, or go spend money, or focus on something that has nothing to do with what I'm feeling, and that's not helping the cause. And I think that you wind up coping w- your uh, your coping mechanism is more of a flight than a fight. So you're really choosing to turn a blind eye to the catalyst for what you're feeling, and dig down deep and figure out what you need to change in your life to quell these feelings that you're having and quiet those voices some. So it's far easier to just distract yourself or go do something that temporarily is a reprieve of what you're feeling. But I tried that for years unknowingly, and it didn't really work out for me. And it wasn't until I was 23 that I decided to really work on this. And at 37 now, I'll be 38 in January. I don't have it figured out. I have it under control, and for the most part, especially the past few years, better than I've ever been. Um, I definitely have it under control, and but I don't have all the answers, and if I did, I wouldn't feel the way that I do, every now and then. So, anything that you guys and girls can offer, not only for myself, but for anyone else who's listening, who stumbles across this podcast or who ends up reading this blog post, that can help them, what works for me may not work for you, but it might work for somebody else. So somebody listening to this may be able to relate to what I'm saying and say, hey, you know what, I realize that I do feel this way, and when I do feel this way, I distract myself, by going in and shopping, or going out to eat with friends, and or partying for the weekend, or whatever it may be. I exercise more. I start exercising twice a day instead of once a day. And while there's some of those solutions or responses to these feelings may be healthier than others, right? Exercise would be a far better response to this than going out and drinking, or doing drugs, or partying, or eating too much. It's still, you're not dealing with the problem, so it's still a distraction. So why physically it may be a healthier response and solution, and that may lead to emotionally a better feeling, you're still not really addressing the issue. So that would be my biggest um, words of advice and suggestions to you guys. I didn't realize that this is what I was feeling until I was probably 23, 24, 25. I stopped drinking when I was 23. Um, but I remember it got worse. But in hindsight, I look back on my whole life. I look back on being a little kid. My kid's age now, and that's why it's so apparent for me to see that Tilly feels the way that she does. A lot of I can now relate, and in hindsight, there's a lot more clarity as to what I was feeling and how early on in my life those feelings, and those coping mechanisms formulated, that I had no idea what they actually were. So that's something we've addressed with her, and that I want to really nip in the butt, because for me it was my whole life, and it never got addressed. Not with my parents, not with my peers, not with any of my teachers. Maybe they tried to, and I was just too stubborn, or again, I was just too distracted to really even notice or pay it any mind. Um, but in hindsight, I wish that I would have developed healthy coping mechanisms from day one to really nip this in the butt, so that it wasn't a lifelong condition that I really struggled with. And again, now it's far better than it ever was before. But shit, I remember being in college, like 18, 19, um, and just like the anxiety and the panic attacks were so intense that I thought I was going crazy. Like, I legit thought I was going crazy, to the point where I was going to see, like, counselors at my university to be like, "Something's wrong with me. I need to figure this out. I need to figure this out." And they would ask me what I'm feeling, and they ended up giving me Klonopins, and they were basically like, "Yeah, you're having panic attacks. So whenever you start feeling this way, you need to take one of these pills." And I don't know how many of you guys and girls have taken Klonopins, but they basically knock you on your ass. It's like you drank 6 beers, 12 beers immediately, and it feels fucking amazing. But the problem was, like, I would either at that point be able to go to sleep, or just zone out and be numb to everything. So then when I would come down off that, or when I would wake up the next morning, I felt even shittier, because it's like damn, I felt that way. And then I basically was out of my fucking mind until I woke up. And now I feel physically shittier because I did nothing and I was a waste. And I also feel like I just took like prescription drugs to get myself better. So I knew that that wasn't the solution to it. And I ended up, um, telling them I didn't want to take those pills anymore. um, I had to find different ways to cope with what I was feeling. And again, a lot of times it was unhealthy ways to do that. But prescription medicine for me, like that had a physical, um, reaction or altered my physical and mental state was not the path that I wanted to be taking, and it felt incredible, but I was like, this is not good. So what I'm on now is essentially like an anti-anxiety, um OCD type medication that really I have no clue I'm on. And that's always the way that it's been from the time I got on it, and testing it and testing your levels was difficult because it's not really some you don't feel like you're on it. It just somewhat takes that like edge off of your anxiety. So you're just not on the edge of feeling the way that you do all the time. But it's nothing that I feel that I'm on. And I do in I don't I was gonna say I do enjoy being on it, but that would sound, wrong. It wouldn't really sound great. I don't think that that would be advocating for the medicine correctly. But I like that I take something on a daily basis and I don't feel the way that I did, and that I don't know that I'm on it. So I really haven't tried coming off of it, and it's been since right after Selby was born, so it's been 10 years. And again, it really has helped me get past that stage that I needed to where it was somewhat out of my control, and now I can make a conscious effort when I do have again like these increased levels of anxiety that I understand what I can do, and now I have the medication that's helping me, and it'd be worse without it, but I have the wherewithal to understand like what I'm feeling, and it's still there. Like I don't want to feel numb to my anxiety because I also feel that like part of the reason I am the way I am and I am who I am, and I want to be the best that I can, and I want to perform at a certain level is because of my anxiety, and because it does keep me sharp, and that is who I am. So it really has formed a lot, and been responsible for the path that I'm on in life. So I don't want to wipe that out, but I just want it to be manageable, and not feel crippled by it all the time. You know, uh, shoot, my anxiety has gotten so bad in my life that at points I was like emaciated, skinny because I just like my stress levels and anxiety, and I would eat, but like I would get my friends at one point were like basically had um oh, what the hell is that show that used to be on TV? Oh, like an intervention that they thought I was on drugs because I had gotten so skinny so quickly. And I was like, yo, I'm not on drugs. I'm just like really, really struggling with my anxiety right now. And I had lost, I've never really had that much weight to lose, but I think I had lost like 40 some pounds or maybe more from just like straight anxiety and like nothing. I was still eating the same. My diet, I wasn't exercising at this point. I just got like so skinny and everyone's like, he's definitely on drugs. But I was not. But that's how intense the physical reaction can be to the mental reaction of anxiety. It's a real thing, and I didn't realize again what I was feeling and what this was until I decided to around 23 really address what I was feeling without any outside distractions or chemicals or alcohol or anything like that. Again, so at 23, I stopped drinking. I stopped doing anything that I was doing that was altering my mind and my mental state, so that I could really focus on what the problem was, and that was really fucking hard, and it it wasn't easy, and a lot of, it got worse before it got better, but I knew that I wanted to do it because I knew at that point I had been dating Rachel for 2 years, and I knew that she was someone I wanted to spend my life with, and I knew that I would ruin that if I didn't get better, and I knew that, we wanted to have a family, and I knew that I wasn't fit to be a father even at 23. I knew that I had started my business shortly after that, and that I wanted to be a successful business owner, and I didn't have the self-confidence and the self-esteem with being the shadow of myself, and really not being confident in myself because of all these feelings that I was masking. So I knew that I had to make a change. So it was really, really hard. Um, Within 3 years, it had gotten a little bit better, and that's when I mean, it had gotten much better, and then we had kids, and then that's when I decided. My wife was like, "You need to get on medication, because, like, this isn't working," and it was a change in my life that I just could not handle at that point. I was not fit to handle, the emotional and physical impacts of being a father, and having somebody that I was 100% responsible for. So really, since having Selby, it's been a long progress to be the best version of myself. And phew, 23, I'm 37 now. That was 14 years ago. And I'm still not there. It's fewer and further between, and the past 3 years have been the best that I've ever been, but I do have bouts like this where, like, last night, I was full sweat all night. Like, I would wake up, go to the bathroom, come back, and my sheets would be soaked, and I was not hot, I was not cold, just, like, these anxious sweats that I have, and then woke up and I feel like crap today, headache. I feel like I drank, I feel hungover, fuzzy, blurry, um, just feel like shit, feel sick to my stomach. And this is all because of what I'm feeling, and because I was feeling this from before vacation and I just didn't address it. And I pushed things off to be able to go on vacation, and it just kind of built up until today. So today's the first day that I'm really addressing it and working to get better, mentally handling this rather than just pushing it off. I'll deal with that after vacation. I'll deal with that after vacation, because I got back from vacation and then everything was just worse. So I know that that was a catalyst for it, trying to get away. This job that's going on, creating a lot of stress and schedule and overlapping subs, and having subs leave and then come back because we ran into things. It's been difficult. And I'm happy with where we are. But again, trying to get away, I just put things off until after I got back. And then when I got back, it was twice as bad. Kids were heading to school. Subby was turning 10, everything, which, saying it out loud, doesn't seem like a lot at all. But again, that's somewhat the purpose of this podcast, to explain to you guys and girls that, like, sometimes it's nothing. And sometimes nothing is worse than the single solitary experience, situation, or issue that you're having, where there's a definitive solution to it, like a quantifiable and measurable solution and path to get to where you need to be. And sometimes these whole bunch of nothings are the hardest thing to fix because you don't know how to fix it. So don't want to concern anyone. I feel okay. I mean, I told my kids, I texted Selby this morning, like, hey, if I seemed off today, just not having a good day, not feeling well, and she's like, feel better, I love you. So it's not anything super bad. I'm definitely working on it, and I would assume next couple of weeks I'll be making some progress and feeling better. I'll keep you guys posted. But again, if there's something that you guys do to help you somewhat get out of these funks, this is less of a general anxiety throughout my life, more of a little stint that I'm facing right now that's just a heightened level of anxiety. So if there's anything that you guys do that you recommend, definitely let me know. Post it to your story, shoot me an email. Um, Spread the word, pass this podcast along to somebody that you may feel may benefit from this. And as always, I appreciate you guys listening. This one I know is not super high energy, but it's what I was feeling today, and this is what came out, and it's a day early. So hopefully that this is something that if somebody's struggling, it can help them, and it can be useful to them. I know it's not construction related, but that's why I started this, and I'm going to continue down this road. So I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a good week, and I'll circle back with everyone to kind of let you know how I'm feeling. But no need for huge concern. Just like weird day, feel like shit, and wanted to get on here, get online, and tell you guys what I was feeling. So I'll catch you next week. All right. Thanks.